please silence your phones. The program will begin. Please welcome Joseph Clark and Jacqueline Knight. Assemblymember Helene Weinstein, Senator Brian Kavanaugh, Attorney General Letitia James, and the 57th Governor of this great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Homeownership is the key to building generational wealth. It's the biggest barometer of social mobility. And today we're here to protect what is known as the most important part of the American dream, the ability to have a safe roof over your head, your own part of your own story that you can build on. And we're here to protect that dream for communities all over the state of New York by cracking down on deed theft. And I want to acknowledge the individuals who brought us here today. Attorney General Tish James, thank you for understanding how important this is to the individuals who've been affected, and let the lawbreakers know that we're coming after them. Thank you, Attorney General Tish James. Thank you. Sponsors of our legislation, Senator Brian Kavanaugh, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is so critically important. Assemblymember Helene Weinstein, thank you for your dedication to getting this done and through the legislature. Assemblymember Rodneyce Bichotte-Hermelin, I want to thank you for, I know you're taking the bar exam here in a couple of weeks. This is your law school, right? It's your law school, so hopefully there's good karma around passing the bar in a couple of months. I also want to thank Assemblymember Brian Cunningham, Assemblymember Zinnerman, Attorney General Gonzalez, critical role we play in making sure that our laws are implemented and executed as our district attorneys. I want to give him a shout out as well. We also have here two individuals who are as tough as nails, who are unrelenting in their fight through the courts to say, no, we will not be victimized by people who try to steal part of our identity, our own home. And that is Joseph Clark and Jacqueline Knight, who were previously the victims, but now the prevailers, the winners. And I want to give them a special shout out here today. Jenny Eisenberg, thank you. Where's Jenny? She's the attorney. Stand up. This is the attorney from Brooklyn Legal Services who helped make this happen. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. I know how home ownership can change people's lives. I saw my own parents, children of very poor immigrants who lived in a trailer park, my mom and dad did. And it was not where the wealthy people lived at all, and it still hasn't changed much. I still visit this trailer park to remind me where my family came from. But I saw the progression of success through the little Cape Cod, where all of us slept in an attic, and the next house, and the next house. And that becomes part of your success in life, the ability to own a home, but maybe to even get a bigger one someday as your family continues to grow. So that's why I know how important this is. I know this is part of who you are. And every New Yorker deserves the ability to build that wealth and have that home. But there are some twisted, cruel people out there, hell-bent on scamming vulnerable New Yorkers. And they've been getting away with a lot. They are trying to steal that dream from innocent people. There's a story I read in the New York Times a couple years back that I'll never forget about a woman who owned a beautiful brownstone in Bed-Stuy. She inherited it from her father. It was a point of pride for her because her father had born into a family of former slaves. This was success. They bought the home for $7,500 in 1957. That was a lot of money back then, but they worked hard to have that. And tragically later, that dream turned into a nightmare when there were scams. The daughter had fallen behind on mortgage payments. Many people do. And she unwittingly was scammed into selling the home for a fraction of its value. That home was worth $1.2 million. And she gave it up for $120,000. That was a crime. That's what we call deed theft. And it's fueled by the hot real estate markets right now. And there's a lot of demand for this. But particularly black and brown communities are preyed upon by these individuals. and in areas that are being gentrified, and the value of the homes is up. As housing prices skyrocket, so have the scams to steal these rights. There were over 3,500 deed theft complaints in the New York City Sheriff's Office, 1,500 right here in Brooklyn. Out of those cases, there have only been a handful of convictions because the law was not on their side. And the value of those homes, even in just look at Manhattan, $112 million. But behind every statistics, there's a broken-hearted family who doesn't know what their next steps will be, a shattered dream. And there's people who pose as mortgage specialists and foreclosure specialists and join us. You're a little behind. We'll help you get out from it. And sometimes people get pressured into signing agreements not knowing that they're actually transferring the deed to someone else. And that's hard to undo in court. Once there's that signature, it's hard to undo. So there's been scams and scams and scams. And what I want to make sure we do is address those, but also those who also forged the signatures of deceased homeowners. I'm sure many of you read the news. November 9th, this year, there was a wicked scheme that just came to an end with an arrest. A woman stole a deed belonging to a dead man who had the same name as her father. Who does that? She stole the property, hundreds of thousands of dollars. She went out and bought an Audi, fancy jewelry, artwork. So cold to the cruelty of what she did in denying that dead man's family their rightful due. Their family legacy turned into a shopping spree for this woman. So people can steal. They keep paying on a mortgage that no longer belongs to them. And it often means someone being evicted from their home. And it's hard to crack down on. The Attorney General will tell you this is why she was so dedicated to changing the law. When these people hide behind these shell corporations, it's hard to find who the perpetrator is. And you're going to hear a powerful story from Joseph and Jackie very soon. They were tricked into deeding their home to a sham LLC and then faced eviction. But the story ends well. I'll let you tell it. But I also, again, want to give a shout out to Brooklyn Legal Services for what you did and the fact that people in these circumstances need free legal services to help them get their day in court. And so that's what we're going to also focus on. It has a happy ending, but so many people did not end up as they did. It's an injustice and one that must be eliminated. The idea that someone could steal your wealth, all with the stroke of a pen, it's unconscionable and will no longer stand for it. That's why today, with the stroke of a pen, we'll sign legislation that will protect homeowners from this heinous crime. Again, thank you to our sponsors, Senator Kavanaugh, Assemblymember Weinstein, and the Attorney General for making sure this became a reality. It also expands the Homeowner Equity Theft Prevention Act, allow homeowners to cancel a contract if they sell their property and if they're on a utility lien list, allows prosecutors to flag properties to make buyers and lenders aware of the issues, to avoid further transactions, so it protects them, and it makes changes to the legal process, giving victims more power to their rights in civil court. So today is an important step forward. Long overdue. Wish we could have protected more people before this day, but going forward, there'll be a different income. And let the message go out to all of those who have preyed on these individuals for far too long. Your day is over. You will be caught, you will be prosecuted, and it must end right now. So that's how we keep New Yorkers safe, also securing more resources for these programs. But today, I'm proud to be here. Proud we can get this accomplished and make sure that we end this horrible scam and deliver a powerful message. First of all, that our black and brown communities matter, they have rights, stop preying on them, that their financial well-being matters, and that their housing security matters to all of us. We'll continue to make the dream of home reality remain more than a dream. Let's make it become the reality for so many more New Yorkers without the threat of having that dream shattered. So with that, I want to thank all of you for being here today, and let's get this done. Thank you. Now, I've had the privilege of introducing the Attorney General on so many occasions because we work so well together and we are joined together in our effort to protect vulnerable New Yorkers, especially when it comes to protecting their homes. So I want to thank her again for her leadership on this initiative, and very proud to consider her my partner in government. Ladies and gentlemen, our great Attorney General, Tish James.
I'd like to acknowledge the dean of this great law school, Dean David Meyer. I know that he is here. Thank you so much for being here. And also I'd like to acknowledge my Assemblywoman Sarah Forrest. Thank you for being here as well. So I can recall maybe a couple of years ago, a number of my colleagues in legal services, we joined together to knock on the doors of individuals in Bedford-Stuyvesant and East Flatbush, individuals who were on a list, a lien sale list, and also individuals who were facing foreclosure. Most of the individuals whose doors we knocked on, well, first I'm proud to say that when I called for volunteers to come to Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration, I thought that maybe only 50 people would show up. And on one Saturday afternoon, over 400 people showed up. We knocked on thousands of doors in Bedford-Stuyvesant and East Flatbush and in Canarsie. And as a result of that, we were able to save individuals' homes. Most of the people that we knocked on were black and brown individuals in gentrifying neighborhoods. And that's who these scams, unfortunately, are targeted. These people are targeted as a result of these scams. And I'm so glad that we're joined by Joseph Clark and Jacqueline Knight, who themselves are the victims of an unscrupulous attempt to steal their Brooklyn home. Thankfully, after a lot of hard work and with the support of Jennifer Eisenberg and Brooklyn Legal Services, and I am an honorary member of Brooklyn Legal Services, a former legal aid attorney, they were able to get their title back and they weren't evicted from their home that they rightfully own. You see, deed theft is a heartless and a merciless crime that steals people's homes with knowledge. But more importantly, deed theft steals generational wealth from black and brown communities. And it's gone on for far too long, and it continues to go on. I look forward to working with the Secretary of State to stop individuals from knocking on doors and receiving calls. I live in central Brooklyn. I live in a brownstone. I get 2 calls a day. I get people knocking on my door. I get mail every day, individuals who seek to steal our brownstones. I want to recognize and I want to thank Governor Kathy Hochul for taking this effort and for her efforts to protect New York homeowners from this horrible crime. I appreciate you, and I thank you for signing this bill. I also want to recognize the bill's sponsors, my friends and my colleagues, Senator Brian Kavanaugh and Assemblywoman Helene Weinstein, for carrying this legislation and helping to secure support. And of course, I want to thank all of my colleagues who are here today, who obviously know the scourge of deed theft. We get these complaints in our office every day. Assemblywoman Zimmerman, who I've had the opportunity to speak to with regards to the Secretary of State and their efforts to help us in stopping this. Assemblymember Cunningham, thank you for all that you do. And of course, my good friend, District Attorney Gonzalez, who we call on a daily basis, all of us, urging him to prosecute these individuals, Assemblywoman Forrest, and of course, my very good friend, Assemblywoman Ranice Bouchard-Hermelin. Thank her, and I'm glad that she is she's graduated and will be taking the bar so that she can join me in this effort in court. I thank you so much. And I was proud to partner with the bill sponsors and with our colleagues in public service to help ensure we could achieve results in our ongoing fight against deed theft. Deed theft robs New Yorkers, especially older adults and people of color, of their lifelong investment of building wealth in their homes. The perpetrators of deed theft force their victims to endure humiliating and terrifying situations, and often with the very real threat of eviction from their family home. And that is why I work on this legislation to address this problem and to empower New Yorkers. The civil reforms made through this legislation will help protect New Yorkers. This new law will enable prosecutors to effectively legally file red flags on homes where deed theft is suspected. This will help ensure scammers cannot take loans out against ill-gotten property, New Yorkers will also be able to remain in their homes and stay eviction proceedings when they can show reasonable evidence that deed theft against them occurred. I can again recall a night where DA Gonzalez, one night we had to call him because so many homeowners on a block in Crown Heights called me because a woman who was almost 95 years old was in threat of losing her home. And she was about to be evicted. And I want to thank DA Gonzalez for his efforts in protecting that homeowner in Crown Heights and all of her neighbors who stood together and basically held hands around her home and prevented anyone from removing her. And I want to thank them. And I also want to thank the sheriff for cooperating with my office, as well as NYPD, to prevent the eviction of a 95-year-old woman who was a victim of deed theft. Simply put, this law will empower New Yorkers against the criminals who try to steal their wealth and their American dream. And I've used my office to combat deed theft and ensure New Yorkers can stay in their homes. And I've been focused on this for a long time as a former public advocate and as a city council member. And last year in my office, we indicted 5 individuals who engaged in deed theft and stole homes from elderly owners, people who targeted vulnerable New Yorkers who spent decades investing in their homes. But because of this ring of criminals and all their hard work, time and money was cruelly taken from the real owners. And the thieves targeted 3 homes in Queens, impersonated owners, and used forged documents to quickly sell the homes at very, very low prices. We work to bring these deed thieves to justice and to help the homeowners targeted by this ring. And this past July, in a case where we indicted another individual for using forged and falsified documents to steal 2 Harlem brownstones. And one rightful owner of that brownstone was in a homeless shelter and had no idea that she was the rightful owner of a brownstone valued at $3 million. She lived in deplorable conditions, and it was only until we contacted her in the shelter that she realized that she was the victim of deed theft. That case is currently going to trial, and I look forward to this individual's conviction. And in the other brownstone, the deed theft actually tried to evict tenants, causing confusion and stress. These crimes cause real harm to everyday New Yorkers, and we cannot allow them to go unanswered, unaddressed, and unpunished, and unprosecuted to the full extent of the law. And my office has also secured grant funds secured from our settlements to help raise awareness about deed theft. And we give it to worthy organizations such as Legal Services and other organizations all throughout the state of New York. And we also launched Protect Our Homes initiative, and we formed an interagency law enforcement task force to respond to deed theft and other real estate fraud. Because one of the biggest challenges is education, informing and educating individuals about deed theft. And so our initiative has focused on and will continue to focus on education, connecting with local organizations, providing individuals with legal services, and informing faith leaders to tell their flock about the risks that they pose. The task force is comprised of local district attorneys, the sheriff's office that coordinates law enforcement's response to deed theft and other issues pertaining to real estate fraud, which is a very real issue. And since the launch of this Protect Our Homes initiative, we have seen that deed theft is not only a problem in New York City, but all across the state of New York. And our office has received complaints, as all of our offices has received, and it's unfortunate that we continue to deal with this issue. And so I really want to thank all of my colleagues, and I want to take this opportunity to urge anyone who believes that they are a victim of deed theft to contact my office calling 1-800-771-7755. That's 1-800-771-7755, or by emailing deedtheft@ag.ny.gov. That's deedtheft@ag.ny.gov. We are here to serve you, we are here to keep you in your homes, and we're here to prosecute perpetrators. They're actually criminals. And ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and privilege of introducing to you the sponsor of this legislation, Senator Brian Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Attorney General James. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for gathering us today and for signing this very important legislation. I also acknowledge someone you'll hear from in a moment, Helene Weinstein, our Assembly sponsor, and everyone who worked hard to get us to this day. Last October, the Senate Committee on Housing, Construction, and Community Development convened a hearing in close coordination with our Attorney General and with many of the advocates in this room to address what was considered by many a problem that was a terrible scourge but didn't have clear solutions. There was a perception out there that scammers are going to do what scammers are going to do, and once title has passed and the process is moving forward, it's very difficult to address that. At the hearing, we heard harrowing, infuriating testimony, and I think you'll hear some truly infuriating stories in a moment, although with a good outcome. And we learned about how these thieves operate. We learned how difficult it is under current law to prosecute these crimes or to remedy the harm of title having passed improperly under our current laws and real estate practices. But we also learned about potential solutions. We learned about changes in the law that'll make it more difficult for title to pass improperly. We learned, as the Attorney General mentioned, about the possibility that prosecutors who may be investigating crimes, like our great Brooklyn District Attorney, can step in on the civil side, and if they think there might be a crime involved, make sure that the title is not passing, which is, of course, is the thing that prevents somebody from continuing to own their own home. So we working very closely with the Attorney General and the great resources from their experience on the ground, but the tremendous legal resources that they bring to this. We crafted what we think of as a very powerful bill that closes a lot of the loopholes and will give real steps to prevent this terrible crime from occurring. Now, there's still more to do. We also have been working with the Attorney General on some criminal sanctions and strengthening the criminal penalties and treat this like the crime that it is. We know that homeowners need advice, they need prevention services. We want to make sure we're protecting. There's the Homeowner Protection Program, which is the program that provides people with advice throughout the state when they might be in jeopardy of losing their home, either through theft or through foreclosure. And as the Attorney General alluded to, there are also steps that we can take to sort of curb the speculative fervor in in individual homes and small buildings that is fueling some of this activity. But what we're doing today is a giant step forward. It really will prevent so many people in jeopardy of losing their homes from losing those homes. It'll also prevent, as has been mentioned, particular communities have been targeted aggressively. It's fitting that we're here in Brooklyn. Rodney's stamped my visa. I used to be a proud Brooklyn representative, but I was ejected last year in the redistricting, but it's great to be back. And much of this crime has been centered in Brooklyn, but also the advocacy to address it has also very much come out of Brooklyn. I want to thank my legislative colleagues, particularly our Assembly member sponsor, who we'll hear from in a moment. Also, Senator Myrie, who hasn't been mentioned and couldn't be here today, but played a big role in crafting this and in strategizing around how to get it done through the legislature. I also want to acknowledge the many public agencies and officials and legal services organizations and housing advocates who came and testified at the hearing and gave us ongoing advice as we shaped the legislation and got it through the legislature. And perhaps most of all, I want to thank the many people who came forward at the hearing and also in the press to tell stories that were genuinely harrowing, that were sometimes embarrassing and painful, but were the thing that made it clear to people that we needed to act. We're going to hear from a couple of them, from Joseph Clark and Jackie Knight in a moment. But really, this is an insidious crime. And if people had not been willing to come forward and tell their story, I'm not sure that we would have had the ability to get this through. And finally, of course, once again, I'd like to thank the governor, who has been a tremendous leader. I chair the Housing Committee. We work together a lot on housing issues. Obviously, a lot more to do there, but really has stood up for the notion that we need to provide housing, adequate housing for people. We need to protect homeowners as well as tenants. and on so many other issues involving making sure New York is a just and safe and fair place. So thank you, Governor. And now I have the great pleasure of introducing Helene Weinstein. You know, when I got to the Assembly a bunch of years ago, Helene was already a great champion on many of these issues, as you know, working with the Judiciary Committee and making sure our justice system works, and now responsible for much of the purse strings of our state. It's a great pleasure to introduce somebody I learned so much from, Assemblymember Helene Weinstein. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. The governor's really in charge of the money, but I try and help. I have a little role in that, yes. It's great to be here with so many friends and colleagues who've been so supportive of our efforts to tackle the scourge of deed theft in New York State. And as has been said, we know that deed theft occurs when someone uses deception to wrongfully take the title of another person's home. Deed theft disproportionately impacts elderly homeowners who are house rich and cash poor, and homeowners of color, especially in newly gentrified neighborhoods, literally ripping their homes out from under them. So this bill represents an important advancement from the legislation that we passed, that I sponsored in 2019, which gave district attorneys the ability to seek restitution of stolen title via court action. That had to wait till the home was taken out from under someone. What this does is this new law provides the additional important tools for law enforcement to stay ahead of the fraudsters, keeping homeowners in place in their homes, and as has been mentioned, the expanded use of notices of pendency, the red flag that any potential buyer will see that there's a dispute as to title. I wish to thank Attorney General Letitia James, who co-authored this legislation and has led the fight against deed theft for so many years as a council member representing part of central Brooklyn where deed theft was occurring. Tish James worked with me and others in fighting this problem and looking for solutions, and now in her position hit the ground running when it came to trying to come up with solutions to keep homeowners in their homes. I would also like to thank my Senate co-sponsor, Brian Kavanaugh, for fighting the good fight along with me. And likewise, there are a great many in the law enforcement and legal services community who supported this initiative, and for that, I am very grateful. And finally, I must especially thank Governor Hochul for recognizing the importance of keeping New Yorkers in their homes and preventing fraudsters and scammers from taking advantage of our most vulnerable homeowners. As scammers come up with new and different ways to defraud homeowners, there is certainly more to do to combat deed theft, and I look forward to working with my partners in government to do so in the future. And now it's an honor for me to invite two fellow Canarsians to the podium to tell about their harrowing story, which luckily has a positive ending. So I'd like to invite Ms. Clark, Mr. Clark and Ms. Jacqueline Knights up to the podium so that you can describe some of your situation that happened. Please come.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Knight.
And I am Joseph Clark. Now,
But we are married. But I didn't change my name.
so in my next life, I'm going to be a politician, all right? Too many politicians in here. But let's get on with our story. Good morning, and thank you for inviting us to share our story. You guys hear me? Yes. All right, let me get over here. Where was I? We congratulate all New Yorkers on the passage of the new deed theft law, and thank Governor Hochul, Attorney General James, and all of the bill sponsors for supporting this important legislation. If this law had been in effect where my wife Jackie and I became victims of the deed theft, things would have been easier for us. We have been working with our lawyers at Brooklyn Legal Service since November of 2014, and it took until this year for us to reclaim our title. It has been a devastating and stressful 9 years for us. I got a grandson. We have lived in our home in Canarsie for 25 years. We had a bad loan in the past with an adjustable rate and went into foreclosure. After we got a loan modification, I was forced to take early retirement, and we could not afford the payments. We were desperate to keep our home, but we did not know our options. I mistakenly trusted a company that offered to help us save our home by fixing the mortgage. The person who called me was a Guyanese. That's where I'm from, everybody. Like me and Jackie, we both immigrated to this country as adults and are very connected with our culture. So I trusted these people, of course. This company strung us along for months, pretending to work on a refinance. Eventually, we were told the only way to save our whole house would be to do a short sale on paper. They promised we'd never leave, we'd never have to move out. We did not realize they were lying, and we fell for this scam. After we signed the papers, men from the company came to our home to intimidate and harass us. We called the police because we were afraid, but they wouldn't make an arrest or get involved. We sought advice from free housing counselor, but she realized we were in serious trouble and referred us to Brooklyn Legal Service. When Legal Service took up our property, they told us we had actually signed away our deed. We were humiliated and terrified. You want to read this? Or
You continue.
Page 2. This same company filed an eviction case against us. The judge told our tenant to stop paying rent, so we lost that income. Our lawyers fought for months just to stop the eviction in housing court and stop the eviction, but we still didn't have our deed. Finally, the FBI got involved and arrested the people who stole our deed. I traveled out that we were not alone and that more than 30 other people had been scammed by this company. Not all of them were lucky to get free lawyers, and some of them did actually get evicted and lost their homes. With the help of Brooklyn Legal Service, we fought for 9 years to get our house back. Our family had suffered so much from the stress and fear of this experience. My blood pressure was elevated for so long that I got blood clot and my leg was amputated. See here? When we lost our deed, the property taxes and homeowners insurance went unpaid because we weren't the owners. Every year, the city threatened us with a tax lien because that scammers never paid the bill. We lived 9 years in an uninsured house because we could not get a policy without title. We finally got our deed back through the criminal case in federal court. Our old mortgage lender actually tried to stop us from regaining title by demanding that we pay them off. We settled earlier this year, and finally we came we can say we own our home again. When the scammers stole our property, they didn't just take the paper title. They took our sense of security and our sense of peace and wealth and financial stability. If we had access to free lawyers before we got scammed, or the laws had been more protective, maybe none of this would have happened. Thankfully, we got help, and we were able to save our home. It should not have taken a team of lawyers, 3 different courts, the FBI, and 9 long years. We hope this new law will mean more lasting protection for homeowners like us. Thank you very much.
Please remain seated for the signing of the bill.
And thank you, God, for me, Jacqueline Knight. I'm a fighter.
Are you want to sign a bill or are you going to talk?
I'm a fighter, and I don't give up like that.
No, you don't, Jen.
I mean that I was going to fight them. They were not going to get that home.
They're not going to get her home.